Shea, your host for the member comment period this morning. Welcome, and it's Happy Co-op Month. So as a reminder, we record these meetings and post them to our website. This is our member comment period during the first part of the meeting. I'm going to do a few quick updates, and then if anyone has any comments, they can go ahead and do that. So as I said, it's Co-op Month. We're really excited. We're doing some member appreciation giveaways this month. People can follow us on social media to enter our weekly giveaways or enter our grand prize giveaway at opauco.com/co-op month. Last month, we hosted some really great community meetings discussing our local renewable projects and our energy future. We had around 100 members attend from the various islands to discuss these topics. The meetings were really great. There was a wide variety of topics that were discussed. I felt like in general, the comments were positive towards renewable energy, though there was lots of questions and concerns expressed as well. So I think having these meetings and having this education campaign is going to be key to local renewable energy. And speaking of that, our Decatur Island Expanded Community Solar Project continues to progress, and we're going to host a community meeting that's an informational meeting about where we're at with our various permitting reports, and we have lots of good information to share with the Decatur community. So that'll be on Decatur. And the last thing I'll just mention is that the headquarters in East Sound, our roofing project is now complete. So the team is back in the regular office. So now I'm just going to see if any members remind you that if you're here, keep yourself muted unless you're speaking. If you want to ask a question or make a comment, now is the time to do that. Raise your hand, or you can type it into the chat, and we'll open it up to see if any members want to make a comment right now. I think one member just joined, so anybody out there, we'll give you a second. Want to raise your hand or make a comment? Yeah, it looks like maybe people are here just to listen to our exciting meeting today. So I will share the board materials here. And mute.
While we're waiting, it looks like Nancy Loomis is in the audience. Good to see you again, Nancy. Nancy retired not too long ago. Good to see you.
All right, excellent. So let's get started on it. First
Thank
item.
you.
Sorry.
You bet.
Yeah, first item we got this morning is the consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion from one of the board members to approve the items on the consent agenda.
So made.
Brian?
Second.
Mark, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed or abstentions? And hearing none, that passes. Next item, Foster AI update, policy 1.
Let's go through. Why don't we move that up a little bit? We had a really good meeting, by the way. There was 4 board members showed up at our annual PNGC meeting. It was over in Boise, Idaho. One of the topic of discussion was artificial intelligence, AI. So really good discussion, and I know that Shooks has been heavily involved in that as well. We've had good discussions over the months and years, as a matter of fact, about AI and how to navigate through it. And it became really neat in terms of tools, but it was also a little bit scary during the discussions about some of the things that could go on with artificial intelligence that we need to control, meaning that we don't want, proprietary information or legal information to get out on the web. I gather when you upload information into some of these chat bots, that information becomes readily available to anybody out there in the stratosphere. And so there was a recommendation from NRECA and some of the industry groups that we have is really to try to make sure that you protect your proprietary information pretty well. Now, Opauco is wonderful in that we put a tremendous amount of information on the website in terms of budgets and you name it, it's on our website. So it really doesn't impact us dramatically at all, but we do need to safeguard our legal, proprietary, and IT and that kind of stuff. So we're proposing to put a new policy in place, or at least add to kind of 3 areas within our guiding documents. One is policy 1, because it applies to board members as well as staff. And you can see the information that we're about to go through. And there's also a little policy update and for staff, and staff is really in two locations. We have a records management section that it applies to, but we also have an employee handbook where we really lay out the specifics for staff using it. So the ones you're going to be looking at today, it's the first read, is really the two policies. And then in reference, if there's any questions about our handbook, we can answer those as well. Why don't we move up to the yellow zones? Thanks for that. So just really high level. I mean, I don't think it's something that we really need to be paranoid about by any stretch. But if we put some safeguards in place, it should be great. There's a lot of yellow just because numbering changed, but that's all it is.
All right.
Those are our standard stuff. So I don't think we'd need to read it all. You guys got a copy of the board packet in advance. And then here's policy 24 records management. We added an AI to it. It's been a great tool. It was really interesting to see how the industry is applying AI to our services. And it's pretty intriguing, as a matter of fact. Really good ideas. They had at the PNGC meeting, they had something called an AI agent. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it was one group that actually developed an agent to help with answering member questions and so forth. And it was really good. I was really impressed with how well it communicated. But Vince, if there's any questions here, but it's a first read, so we can either take questions now if you have any, or you can send me some and we can adjust those for the second read.
Hey Foster, can I make a few comments?
Hey, there you are, Shooks. Good to see you.
Yeah. So I went kind of right through this, and it's a good class as a start. A couple of areas where maybe we need some clarification language. I think it's the standards for using AI. Reading that section, if I'm reading that correctly, it means, at least to me, that no current or new work involving new IP can be created with AI systems. Is that the understanding?
What we want to do is we want to put, and I think that you were supportive of it, put a kind of a geofence, if you will, in our file server areas, and to make sure that we safeguard our information in there, so we can still upload and use the information, but it just can't get out to the World Wide Web. Does that answer your question? Because I thought that was a good.
No, not exactly. So I guess I'm just kind of
Parker,
reading.
can I clarify too? It's specifically on unapproved AI tools, so we have to approve the internal tools
okay.
before we can do so.
Yeah, thanks, Russ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Megan, did you have any follow-up on that?
Yeah, I think I understand, Chooks. We don't want to limit people's ability to
Correct.
use AI and create content that is beneficial to the co-op. Like that, I use it multiple times a day. I think, to me, what these policies are important is that if we do use that content, that people are very clear that they need to review it for accuracy, say if they've used it, pay attention to copyright, all those things that I think are important to kind of call out in the policy. I in no way want to say people can't use it to create content because I think
Yeah,
that will shoot us in the foot. So yeah,
Correct.
I liked your feedback. I think I tweaked it a little bit and sent that to Beth. And I think the key to these policies to me is just that, is that we pay attention to the security factors, to our intellectual property, to our member information, to make sure we keep all of that very safe as people are just starting to use and understand these. So that's my take on it. I don't know if that helps, but
Yeah, I think that's helpful. I was more or less coming from the perspective of not wanting to shoot ourselves in the foot, right?
definitely, I agree 100% on that.
And
Yeah, and Shooks, if you think of anything in addition to that you want to reference, just send it our way and we'll incorporate it for the next go round.
Right.
And
I think I talked
would-
about this earlier, Foster, but there are systems you can run within your closed wall, right? So
Right.
it never goes out. So you can use it as much as you'd like to, obviously pending approval, but it's nothing that ever gets out of your network.
Well, that's good to hear. And thanks, Megan, for really controlling that. Joel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one comment. I mean, we just need to be mindful fundamentally under state law. We need to protect our customers' usage of electricity and all of their confidential information. So
Yep.
just that should, I'm sure that's built into this policy. I know it is, but just to be mindful that we need to be careful about that fundamentally.
So I want to expand on what Joel said, and I think it's a good policy, but I think that, I mean, coming from more of a security background on this, we are barely starting to figure out all of the security problems and ways that information leaks out of trained models. So one of the things that Chooks just said was running local models rather than subscribing to cloud services. If you want to do any modeling that includes anything like customer data or large scale energy data, we should consider doing it locally rather than using other people's third-party services to the extent possible. I know that places a huge burden on you technically because you have to do more instead of just signing up for a third-party service, but there is barely a week that goes by that somebody doesn't find an exploit in these models. So
I agree 100% on that.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, writing content,
Yeah.
coming up with all of that is largely using public domain information in the first place, right? So, I mean, go ahead, use the tools to remix what is already public to help people understand, you know, our energy policy, our, you know, IRP, all of that I have no problem with. So I think it's much more complicated to analyze real data.
Yeah, good input. We'll call that out specifically.
I have a comment or a question. So one of the things I heard, and I'm sure these experts here already know about this, but if I'm using it and I'm doing at home, thinking about something from Opelco, should we buy this product? We're using one of those things. When they do that, that information goes into their database. And someone else now is doing maybe a somewhat similar one. They will actually say this was used. They might not say exactly it was Brian, but that information gets in there. So I didn't realize that challenge, which then raises a question to me. What if board members want to use this data or runs that? How do we do that at home to do that that are protected? Is there something that Opelco can do to give us a protected way to do that? This is way outside my experience, but we need to be careful because occasionally I use that stuff and now I'm not going to do it anymore at all. And
let me kind of get there, Brian, because I don't want you to be alarmist, because I think those tools are really important. Remember, everything that we have on our website, you guys are going to use stuff on the website. You're rarely going to have, I mean, I don't even know if you have member information. I can't even imagine in a scenario where you would even get member information. So I don't really think it's going to be a big issue for you, Brian. And if it's already on the website, it's already out there in the stratosphere. So I think if you want to upload our policies or any of that stuff, it's already there. And I wouldn't be afraid of that because it's already in that.
Right.
It's only in the legal area if you get like a draft document that Joel writes or something, or proprietary information about Rock Island or something, that you need to be very mindful. And I think as long as you're mindful and you understand the policy to not upload and utilize that information, I think you're going to be fine. But for the normal stuff that's already on the web, you're good.
Using it as an augmented search engine, essentially with public information, presents no specifically new threats over the kind of thing that we've had with online advertising, online search engines for years, right? It is really what Foster just said. Don't upload a non-public document and say, summarize this for me, or, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to call out real quick too, that Brian, you made a good point, is tools that Opelco uses. You know, from an IT standpoint, from a security standpoint, I do not let that information out, period. because that's the kind of information gathering that bad actors like to do. So any tools we use internally, any software, anything like that, that should not be public information, we definitely don't want to enter into any of those tools either.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point that we need to think about, like, because Mark's right. I mean, this stuff, and Shooks was really clear about everything's changing so fast and so dynamically that we don't even know some of the ramifications that we're about to experience. And getting some of those tools available for board members is something that we should do as well. So Megan and our team will start talking about the kind of tools and see how we could allow the board to take advantage of those, but not, you know, issue any alarm bells to go off for our proprietary information. So stay tuned on that, but that's a good point, Brian. We'll see what kind of tools we can get you
Right,
there.
because again, what I'm thinking of is we're looking to buy product A or product B, and I want to do some research. That information, because I'm doing that, is out now. That information might be found by someone else later on. Not one of our documents. I'm trying to do something, but people might know that we're looking at product A or product B. Is that a risk or not?
You know, what we do have, Brian, is that I make sure employees use paid business licenses for ChatGPT or Copilot, and that does not contribute to the LLM data. So that keeps it private. That means that they can't scan anything that we put in there. So that is definitely an option.
Yeah, but what if
But
one
yes.
of the board members wants to do that research? We
Yeah.
we have board members who use that. We have really smart
Of
people.
course. Yeah.
So is that causing a risk for us?
I don't know your
I would-
example very well.
I would say yes to a certain degree. I would not use the name Opelco in it. You know, if it's just general information gathering, they're not going to be able to tie it back. But yeah, this is the challenge with it, is there's no guardrails, you know. So it's I think you bring up a good concern.
And this is
Okay.
an area where the co-op may have to issue, new
Yeah.
guidance fairly regularly because it literally changes week to week. in terms of
Definitely.
New developments.
And what we'll do is we'll start looking at extending tools to the board as well. So give us a little time to do a little homework. and we'll
Sure,
start on that
I'm in no
process.
hurry, but I'm learning now to be careful because even if I don't say Opelco, but I'm saying A and B, that might be information that someone can figure that out later.
Again, I don't really understand your example all that well, but just remember that if the information's already out in our website, like we have so much information that's out there.
Sure,
That
but I'm saying,
you're
what if we
probably-
want to buy energy from one place or another place?
Yeah, I would,
Then when some be able to figure out that it's us.
yeah, I think those are the things that we need to be cautious of, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick one also, Brian. Sort of, I'm gonna go back to what Mark had said earlier, right? It's not any different from going to Google today and doing your search in Google, right? It's like the way most people use these services today, honestly, is very similar to how they used Google. How they've used Google over the past 20 years, right? These models have been trained on all publicly available information on the internet, right? So it's sort of the same thing in a way, right? It's like you go to Google today, like let's say we didn't have ChatGPT today, what would you do? You would still go to Google to do the exact same search, right? But I think, like everyone has said, right, as long as you're not putting out proprietary information out there, it would only use things that already exist, right? That anyone right now, anywhere in the world can find out by going to the Opelco website.
Right. So I just want to add, though, to what Brian was saying, because the area where I've been using ChatGPT lately has been around the rate study. So, I don't think I put anything confidential in there, but it just thinking that if we could use the proprietary version of the tools as board members when we're doing things like that, I would feel more secure in doing that. Because I realized AI was a really powerful tool for trying to take a broader look across other utilities and what the rate structures were. And I don't think they would tie it back to me or anything, but just I'm just bringing that up as an example.
Great information, great discussion. We'll be back next month with some good recommendations for tools and stuff. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
All right, good. Next one, Foster, 2026 budget power purchase forecast.
Before we get into that, I wanted to just recognize there's a new person in the on the screen in the Hollywood Squares, and I wanted to introduce Joey. Why don't you kind of take over and introduce Catherine for us? That I may be doing it on behalf of Joey. Catherine is our new member service supervisor. She's actually been here for a little bit. How long have you been here now? You got your microphone silenced.
Oh, I've been here for 5 months now.
5 months. She's wonderful.
Yes.
We're lucky to have her. She's really like working into the member services group extremely well. Really excited to introduce Catherine to the group, and you'll see that smiley face all the time around Opelka. So thanks for joining us. I hope you're having a lot of fun over in our new building rooftop that we got going right now. Nice
Yes.
to be back in the office.
It is. Thank you.
All right. And now Vince, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, 2026 budget power forecast.
I'm sure Joey going to clean up his technical stuff. Let me get to that screen. So this is that time of year that we're getting into our 2026 budget. And the first thing that we do, and the thing that's really impactful in our budgeting, is our weather forecast. I can't say that loud enough. I mean, the weather forecast is really a major driver of what we're going to go forward with. And 2026 is going to be no exception. Kind of a weird year. We were experiencing a pretty warm 2025. You can see it on our heating degree days when we get into the budget next time. The budget itself, by the way, we're going to get through in November, but we wanted to give a little precursor to the board when it comes to our power purchase, just because it's so essential for us to figure out the details here as we roll in the regular budgeting of expenses and so forth in November. And 2025 has been, really pretty warm, but there's also a prediction right now of a little bit of La Nina, just as a short little blast we're expecting at the end of this year. So that'll be really interesting to watch. And then the probability of an El Nino, because remember, the experience that I've had anyway, it was back in 2014 and 15. And when we switched from a neutral or La Nina condition to a warmer condition, the El Nino, it happened really fast. I mean, it was just like instant flip. And I'm kind of wondering where it's going to go with that. It's really going to be interesting for us because we're kind of in that time where we're looking at not only the wind conditions, but also the water temperatures. And those are the ones that are really, if you look at some of the details about the ONI and the PDO, if you get into the details of the board materials, it's really about the ocean temperatures that we pay a lot of attention to, because when those start making changes, those are dramatic and they last a little bit longer than normal. So as we're going through this, you can kind of see that there's a little bit of blue. That's the indicator for the La Nina condition, and not a lot of red. So we think that that's going to be closing out the year. But when we start predicting 2026, looks like it's going to be a little bit warmer. So we're a little bit cautious when it comes to our predictions. Why don't we go to the next little area? And we can anticipate, here's our November and December for 24, for instance. And then we looked at January and February for 25. I think those numbers should be 24 and 26, as a matter of fact. As we're moving forward, let's go up to the historical purchases a little bit. There we go. Those are good. I don't know if Jay, you want to touch on any of the PDOs or ONI stuff. Any thoughts that you have would be welcome.
Yeah, if we go back to 2014, 2015, one of the things we noticed was this synchronous alignment between the PDO being warm, the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, and the ONI which is the Southern Hemisphere equivalent. The ONI is what NOAA and others use to predict El Nino and La Nina cycles. And so we're starting to see the ONI, the Southern Hemisphere, move towards a warmer situation. And it's been kind of neutral the past year or two in, our experience in this area. The PDO is just off our coast. And, if everybody thinks back to 2014, 2015, the phrase the blob was in common use in the news. And that was this area of water off our coast that amplifies the, if it's a warm El Nino cycle that we're moving into and the blob starts to form up, then that can really make our following winter much warmer than normal, and so therefore less KWH sales. So it's really hard to predict 12 months out, but the trends, even though you're seeing that PDO trend cool now, it was very warm in the Pacific in the air temperatures, and that trend we think is quickly moving towards the warm side over the next couple months. The data is always delayed a few months. So it's tough to make a call about next November, December, when we're 12 months away from that. But there's, I'd say, heightened risk that we could have an unusually warm winter next year.
Thanks for that, Jay. And also note that we sell a lot of our, the kilowatt hours occur in January, February, and then all the way through the year is pretty calm. And then it gets into November, December. So we're really big in the winter peaking zone, and we make a lot of the revenue and the assumptions that go along with that in those 4 months only. And then the rest of the year is pretty consistent. Let's keep going down. Now we're looking at saying it's going to be warmer, so we're probably going to be looking at some lower kilowatt hour sales, but there's something else going on. Let's go through the historical so you can kind of see some of the flips. You can go down a little bit. There you go. You kind of see the 2014-15. That was when it didn't sell a lot. That was the big El Nino period. I remember that really well. We actually had a mid-year rate increase in 2015 that was really hard for us to explain. And we put in mechanisms to counter that. That's where we started our energy charge adjuster to make sure that we accommodated for unforeseen circumstances associated with weather. And it's worked out really, really well. As a matter of fact, we've done great on that. And then you kind of see the peaks that are occurring. Now, when we look at this, it's really interesting is that we see that we're probably going to sell less power based on the weather, but we're also seeing, remember, we've been talking about more people spending times in their homes really ever since the pandemic. And we've got out with Rock Island and been very successful in connecting people to our internet services so people can work from home. And we're seeing some pretty noteworthy, increases in usage that counterbalance what we're trying to talk about right now. And if we'll get into it a little bit of detail as we go, but you can see that there's some in the regular board materials, we'll get into an area where you look at your HDD, and that's your heating degree days. And they've been pretty low for this year, but our revenue is kind of pretty consistent. And that's where we see that more people are spending more time in their homes than ever before. We don't see a lot of growth in terms of permitting of new homes and new connections because of the permitting process is still a challenge, but we do see a lot more turnover in the inventory of housing, and people that are in those homes are spending more and more time in here, more year round, or at least more usage than not. Go to the next page. And this is really interesting. So this chart basically says what our winter peaking would be. So I mentioned January and February, and then I mentioned November, December. These are those big swings that we get. And then, that could change pretty dramatically. These are individual years. You might be able to track them based on the color, but it's hard to differentiate them. But know that there's a big difference in the variation between the weather patterns and how much we use. So if it's really warm, you're going to be on the lower side. If it's really cold, you're probably going to be on the higher usage side as a winter peaker. And then when you get in the summertime, pretty evens out pretty well. We're always following those same lines from June to September, if you will, pretty flat. Now what we do is we get into, we've been doing this every year. We look at Opalco, and we also have a good relationship with PNGC and Bonneville. And we look at the different predictions that they've had. A lot of Bonneville stuff is based on historical data. They'll go like and use a 10-year average looking at the prior 10 years, which is, I don't know, it's less insightful. I think Bonneville does a really good job estimating their water years because it's so important for them, but they pass along the energy usage risk, so to say, onto us to make those calls. So we work together with PNGC and Bonneville to fine tune some of the projections. We're down in around the 230 level is what we're recommending for us to move forward with in the budgetary sense. A little bit lower than PNGC, just because I think we track our, the information that you just went through is we do a little bit extra effort. So I think we can tune that. So that's our. Look at those numbers. Those are really low. We always know we're going to sell basically 220 million kilowatt hours nowadays. Back in the day, we got pretty low in 2015. There's 205 million kilowatt hours as opposed to 230 what we're looking for now. Vince.
Also,
oh yeah, Jerry.
Quick question for you on your nomenclature for your X and Y axes. Could we clear that up a bit?
Yeah, you have
the Y axis of millions, and I'm not sure what the X axis is at all.
On the millions, you got that one right. On
millions
the,
of what? Dollars?
Kilowatt hours. Kilowatt hours.
This is what we do every year, and unfortunately regurgitating that chart, it must have clipped the label off.
That average heating degree days.
It's heating degree a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we could clear this up, Russell, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and you'll see that in 2025, we're pretty low on the HDD scale, right? We're down in the, less than the 1200 number or whatever. 1,200. So really interesting when you get into kind of the differences, and the swings are pretty dramatic. When you think about, some of the differences in years, and to see the drops that occur are pretty amazing. It's always amazed me when I went through the historical patterns, how fast everything flips from an El Nino to a La Nina. But again, I think that the difference now is that we're having more people spend more time in their homes, which is great, right? So we're seeing a little bit of flattening in our usage profile, which is helpful, and it's not as dependent upon in weather. And I think it's going to accelerate more and more over time as we go.
Jay?
And Foster, what I think we're seeing is two groupings of data here, really. The more recent data shows greater use of energy at a given heating degree day than we've had in the past. And I think that's what's really tied up with more usage of people being in their homes, using power and operating from their homes than they have in the past.
You bet. Absolutely.
And it also, if I understand correctly, heating degree days, you almost but not quite could change the x-axis to average temperature, right? And when it flipped, but we could be seeing more usage if people are doing more air conditioning in the summertime. Even if you have lower heating degree days, you could have higher usage with more air conditioning. Is that true?
Right.
Absolutely. It's a little bit, there's not as much as you would think in the air conditioning just yet.
Just right.
But it's a little harder to sense because we got 900 solar, people with solar on their roofs. So that counterbalances a little bit. The heating degree days, we like using the metric because it kind of, the way I look at it is it's kicking in your thermostat that hits your basically your heat load in your home. So when you get down to that temperature, when your heating kicks on, that kind of represents the heating degree day, how many times it kicks into that category. Anything you want to add, Russell?
Yeah, so when we look at it from an hour over hour basis, the summer months, specifically June, July, and August, we've shifted to be an afternoon peak utility. We did so in 2021 with just 2 of those months. Now we're into 3 months. September's starting to shift in that way too. So our summer months are afternoon peaking. That just means people are doing things differently in the afternoon. It could be EV charging, but most likely it's heat pump loads. So our patterns are changing just slightly because of our changing load profile. And then but you can actually see in the chart, I think it's above, where we have growing loads, but we also have growing solar, and it just keeps our summertime flat, if not negative. I think it's July and August of this particular year were almost 6% less than 2012, where the winter months are growing. So there's the caution to one type of resources over a base case resource.
The one thing I'm glad we're on this page right here. This is kind of a little sidebar, but think about how solar impacts our system. Right. I mean, you're going to get a lot of your solar in the summertime, obviously. But look at the difference between the summer and the winter times. Those are really dramatic. And when we don't have nearly the solar profile, boy, does that impact us. And that is, we got to think about how we're going to get power in those areas, and that's going to be the biggest challenge that Opelika is going to face. And the region is like that. Everyone on the Pacific Northwest and on the western side is always struggling with how do you get power in the wintertime that satisfies this when and there's more predictions that the BPA hydro system is going to have less snowpack, and then you're going to see it fine in the beginning portion of the spring. But boy, that tail end, when it starts to rise up, we're really going to be in a short position. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I was just going to say, and it's interesting that February contributes on, more than half of the total variability here. So, that's a swing of more than 10 million kilowatt hours. So it literally, what happens in February sort of can, on the other graph, can move you up or down by a considerable amount.
Yeah, what I always say is that, we're pretty guaranteed to sell about, 200 million kilowatt hours. It's the difference between the 200 million and the 230 million that make or break economics. But wise wisdom there. Anyway, so I think we're doing pretty well. I like the fact that we're off.
It's in February and March both have that very wide possibility.
Sure.
Right, Jay, you had your hand up.
Yeah, if we go back to the HDD chart for a minute, if you play the connect the dots game, you'll notice the earliest one is 2013 over on the right side. And if you just connect from 2013, 14, 15, etc., it's basically a squiggly back and forth as the planet moves through El Nino and La Nina cycles. But the important thing to notice is it's moving up and to the left. So, that's a confirmation that the climate, the long-term trend is warming. So that's moving to lower HDD numbers. And the load, as electrification takes place, is moving upward. So up and to the left is where we're going.
And where we need to be very cautious with that, the energy, providing that energy is going to be harder and harder to come by in the future. And having a partner like PNGC really helps for us to balance that. Good discussion. I like it. We're going to be taking this information, putting it into our spreadsheet modeling for our 2026 budget. This will generate, how many kilowatt hours we're going to sell, and then now we're going to focus on the all the expense profiles that we have, and then we'll back into how much the rates impact once we get the expenses all organized. So stay tuned for that in November.
Right. Good one. Okay, GM reports.
You've done okay. Let's go through the GM. Everyone's familiar with our dashboards now, and our quick facts are getting a pretty good library of good information that's available. And remember, this information is great. It's all on our website, readily available. If anyone has any questions about these topics, it's always great to link and send somebody our responses. Let's keep going. It's nice to be transparent. We'll see how that works in the AI world. The work in progress numbers, you see that we have some really good work orders in play. It was a pretty standard year. It's been a good year for us to get a lot of work orders done. I think we're doing a great job. Crew's always rocking it. Safety is the best. Like to see that time without a lost time accident grow in terms of hours. That's really great to see. Title update. Let me give you a quick little update on the title side. We've gone through the review with DOE about our project. They call it the down select. They're going to select. Remember, there's a competitive grant that we have going on. We've gone through that interview process and we've put our project on hold, so to say. What we did is we reached out to FERC and said, until DOE makes a decision about whether they're going to go with one group or another group, there's no reason for us to really spend resources until we get that clarity. So what we did is we put everything on hold with DOE's perspective and FERC, and waiting for DOE to figure out what they're going to do. We anticipate their decision-making process, which is cumbersome to say the least, is probably going to occur sometime in the beginning of the year. So, I would expect some decision in January, February, March, or whatever, first quarter of 2026. So there's no reason for us to, keep spending money with our team. But I think it's been a really good effort. It's been a really good process for us to learn about tidal energy and have some very clear facts of what we need to determine, rather than we used to talk a lot about hypotheticals. And I think having real data has really been beneficial to us. There's, we're still in the engagement world, but what we did is we had a lot of public engagement that was going through the end of September. So that is turned off. Responding to those things is something that we're going to do once we pull the project back up to speed, when we get closer to DOE, because I still want to answer any questions that are outstanding from the tribes and other stakeholders in the area. You got it. Grants, they've all been, we still have a couple little things that are lurking out there in terms of grants. I mean, the grant cycle has certainly been withdrawn from some of the DOE stuff, but we still have our title project that's ongoing, but slowly. And then the rest of the grant programs have been restricted to really the broadband area. I'm really impressed with the Washington State Broadband Office, and still moving forward some broadband grants. So we're still searching for those. There's been some interest in some Department of Commerce grants that looks like we're going to be putting in grant submissions. I think the trigger date is like mid-November or something like that. So we got another couple thoughts that we're going to put out there, but the grants are really kind of dried up, but we're going to be milking these along. We've had requests for writing letters of recommendations to a lot of community stakeholders that are going to be submitting grants to the Department of Commerce as well. So it's good to see Washington really trying to keep up with some of the grant cycle, even though the federal agencies have dried up.
Foster, what visibility have you got into what kind of funding is potentially going to be available from Washington State in this area?
The one, I think everyone has seen it. There's one Department of Commerce grant that's out there, and it's a lot lower. It's going to be, a lot of people are going to be putting in for a lot of grants, but the numbers are dramatically lower. I forget the number off the top of my head. I don't know if Travis, you know it off the top of yours, but it was substantially lower, and there's going to be really competitive because a lot of people really love grants now that we've gone through the cycle, and I think it's going to be extremely competitive.
I have sort of a related question about sort of the federal level. Have you had any contact with folks at RUS? Are they facing layoffs or other things that cause difficulty for rural co-ops?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we just had I was at a NRECA event and ran into our old GFR from RUS, and it was described as there's not a lot of people in the halls any longer. There's been a lot of people retiring or taking the buyout. I know this particular gentleman did. And we're seeing all of the contacts that I remember are gone. There's usually someone that's been assigned to them, so it's kind of a skeleton crew, Mark.
Right.
And they're inundated with all kinds of different projects. The one that Travis and I were really hopeful to get is the next round of those Switch It Up funds, those REST funds that we get
Right.
for our Switch It Up program. And we're not getting a lot of, we're getting some response, but not as immediate or as consistent as we would like. So everything's really slowed down, and luckily they automated a lot of the permitting processes before they, went dark.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't seem like there's been any direct threat to the core functions of RUS, but
You know what? I got to give NRECA a lot of credit. During the discussion, I had a chance to talk to Jim Metz, Metz, and he was very, very helpful in getting the RUS program stable and voicing that to the administration.
right.
And I think that that's worked out really well. So it's nice to have places, people in high places in Washington, D.C. to vie for our interests. And NRECA is doing a really good job of that.
Good.
So I think the RUS program hopefully stays very solid and in place. I mean, we rely on it
Rural co-ops would be in a world of hurt without RUS.
Well, you're not kidding. I mean, that the interest rates, people don't really understand how great those interest rates are. That they're like FFB rates are just above Treasury rates, and the difference when you start looking at a 5% interest rate versus a 6.5 are pretty notable when you have a 30-year asset on the books. So that's what up with the grants. I wish there was more going on, but at least we got a little bit of funding available. Now here's that one chart that I was kind of alluding to, if you will. This is the budgeting tracking chart. So if we took the 2025 budgetary numbers, then we throw in the actuals for January through, where we are today. And what we do is through September. And so what we do is we put, so it's actuals through September, and then we got November, December, and November and December, October, November, and December is projected. And so it really dials us in where we expect our margin to go, and everything looks really positive on it, even though we're going to energy charge adjustment is providing a credit to our membership over the year of $1 million, which is pretty great. But notice the number down towards the bottom, that HDD, that's that heating degree day mark that we were talking about.
Sure.
When we were budgeting, the last time we did the budgeting that we just went through was 1,446. Now, our actual to date is more on target with dramatically less. I mean, closer to, 150 to 200 less than we anticipated. But we still have, look at the purchases. The purchases are still pretty much in line. I mean, that's still within the margin of error of what we'd expect to see. So I really, we've always talked about, there's been hypothetical thoughts about moving forward with more people spending more time in their homes and using electricity along the way. We're really seeing those numbers down. So that's a good resource. Let's keep going. ECA is working well. Heating degree days we just went through. Here's some more heating degree stuff for just this year. You can kind of see our black line is what we've been experiencing. You kind of want to follow that yellow line for the most part. You don't want to be extreme either way. If we can follow the yellow line, which is the average between the El Nino, La Nina lines, the blue and the red, that's the one we want to follow. We don't want to undercollect or overcollect. Did the weather forecast, a little adjustments, kind of a weird little La Nina spike, which is interesting to see. Let's keep going down. I didn't really expect that. I wouldn't have expected that at the end of last year when we were doing our budgeting. But knowing now that we're watching the water temperatures, it's good to kind of note these little facts. I think we're getting better at it as we go. The energy assistance, again, I'm really always impressed with how well our co-op helps our members in need, and it shows up pretty dramatically in these figures. Right now we're on task with helping. You look at the numbers at the bottom, you can see the number of accounts that we're helping in the 550 range, and then the financial assistance that we've provided, which is pretty close to $200,000 for those folks, both in terms of our our line item on the bill, which is the Energy Assist credit and our PAL program that's just kicking off, as a matter of fact, coming up. The PAL program, if you remember, kind of kicks off now, and then it's a one-time payment to members in need. They usually get that to kick off the year, and then the ongoing energy assistance program is always available and always there as well. So good stuff. Our rebates going strong. These are the rebates that we get through Bonneville Power Administration, and provide our membership with things like window programs and rebates on different things, a lot of appliance and that kind of stuff. Good news there, our interconnects, we now have 926, a lot more solar. There's been a big push towards more solar before the federal credits run out. So we're seeing a lot more projects up there. Our Switch It Up programs are, boy, this is my favorite program out there. I think everyone else would agree that the amount of, I always like to point to two things: the amount of ductless heat pumps, so we get more energy efficiency in our heating of our member homes, and also the amount of solar that we have. And we're looking at $10 million for kind of each of those topics, and I think that's credits. A lot of people really struggle with coming up with a capital investment, and after talking to Rainshot, I think Chris is on the audience list, and how much we're using our Switch It Up funds to assist with rooftop solar has been really great. We've go down a little bit, and you see those rests. Those are the individual requests and individual requests that we got from RUS for the loans, and we got a REST 4.0 that we're trying to put in play. That's going to be a big one. We hope that we can get that, and we can get their attention marked before they. Before not, we're hoping we're top on the list, which we think we are. So hopefully we can get that before we run out of funds. We still got, in the $20 million range, but these have been really good when it comes to new construction since we opened it up. So they're probably going to go a little faster than the initial ones. We had a lot of, I had, the group had a lot of fun going around and doing our energy, renewable energy roundtable, and just having good discussions with the members. And there's a lot of interest in renewable energy amongst our community, and it was a good discussion about educating how much of a challenge we have, and different options and different member perspectives between the different islands that we have. But it was a really good effort for us. We're at the stage now we're fine tuning our member survey, so that's kind of follow up our discussions that we have with our members, and the member surveys. We're going to start soliciting member feedback with that. I think we're still fine tuning the questions. Should have those out shortly, and stay tuned for that on the horizon. October is always National Cooperative Month, which is always great to see. You see a lot more of things that we're putting out there in the membership about Co-op Month. I think a lot of people that when they move in here, I don't know if when it really hits me when I look at the new members at the beginning of this board report, the amount of people that move into our service territory is tremendous. And I think the numbers, and you probably know pretty well with the economic EDC mark about the turnover, somewhere crazy, like I thought it was like 35% turnover in 7 years. Is that still?
It sounds about right. Yeah.
And really making sure that people understand that we're a co-op. We're not, the typical IOU utility that's profit driven. We're a nonprofit utility, and it's really important for us to highlight that. But most people that come here really don't understand that. We spend a lot of time trying to get people to understand the co-op world.
Absolutely. You see that in virtually every social media comment thread. People do not get that.
They really don't. I liked it. The last one I read, I think you were watching it. People were putting our "No, we're a co-op" response to some of the typical statements that they would make on the mainland.
Right, and even beyond being a co-op, people don't understand that rural electrical co-ops are nonprofits. Right, that we're not trying to maximize profit. They don't understand the connection between the annual margin and their capital credits in 25 years. Right, like. We have to give your profit back eventually.
Yeah, this is yours.
This is yours, right?
So we really make I got to give Krista and And Joe, a lot of credit for co-op month, because we're really kind of dive into those details. We're going to have our Decatur meeting. Remember, mark the date. It's October 27th. We're going to update the community, the community at large over there about our plans to expand our existing solar project over there. We're putting together all kinds of boards and site plans so we can communicate it. We've been listening. I think it's been a really good process for our team to really understand their perspective and really highlight how much we have listened. When I go through a checklist when we first started with some of the comments that we initially had versus where we are now and what our project is going to roll out like, boy, we've made some really good progress on how to do a solar array in a community solar project, you know, working together with embracing a lot of the comments that were been raised. So that should be fun. Looking forward to that, Tom. And here's our new roof. So we don't have a leaky roof any longer. And we actually got a good paint job out of it too. Someone came up to me the other day and go, hey, looks like you got a whole new building. I said, oh no, it was just the roof and a paint job. It looks great though. What do you think? So it looks great. You know, we also, this was the Orcas Center. They have a pretty decent sized array and a battery they out there. They were at the end of the grant cycle and got a pretty good Washington State Department of Commerce solar grant and battery, which the battery they selected was a pretty darn good one. And we've been working with their vendors as well. So it was nice to work with the Orcas Center and getting that thing up and running. Keep going down. Getting into our Rock Island back sheets that we have, net subscribers really doing well. Remember, we got our ARPA funding grant for $50 million for Rock Island. So we've been really working hard, and the crews have been great, putting fiber in the backbone and doing great. Now at this point in time of the year, we're starting to make the connections. We're starting to connect people up to the internet and start charging people and so forth. So if you looked at the net subscribers, we're better than planned. And if you looked at the revenue, same kind of thing. We're seeing some of the numbers are kind of wonky in that one revenue side. I want you to move it up a little bit so you can see the revenue. But our revenue is starting to be above plan as well. And it's really because we're making all those connections and we're just starting. So that's going to perpetuate through future months and future years. So really proud of what we've been able to do with those, you know, those ARPA grants, bringing in another 1,000 subscribers for us, which is pretty noteworthy.
It doesn't look like we'll crack 7,000 total by the end of the year, but maybe by sometime early to mid next year.
Yeah, I would say pretty close. I mean, I'm really impressed with everything that's going on. And there's also a chance, we don't know how this is going to play out with some BEAD funding. We got notice to look like we were going to get a verbal yes on some BEAD funding, which was going to be a pretty substantial grant for Rock Island and broadband. And then lo and behold, the funds were pulled back, but rumor has it that they may materialize again and maybe we'll get it. So we got our fingers, toes, and eyes crossed, hoping that we can get those. And if we do, by the way, that's going to really be, you know, a really good area. The amount of people we've connected in zones that I never thought we could ever get connected because of the rocky nature and how hard it was going to serve. That's what we're connecting right now. So that's how big of a win it is. And the BEAD funding would be in kind of the same category.
Foster, that's federal money that's state administered. Is that right?
Yeah. And it's all through, it was all given over to, I think that's part of the broadband office stuff. What would they get? So they transfer it over. But rumor has it they're going to continue on with the broadband portion of those funds. So the broadband office with the Washington State is going to have the funds to give away. They broaden the ability for like satellite connections. So that's where we're wondering how, you know, Starlink is going to be playing into the mix. So stay tuned. I don't want to be anything but positive on that right now. And with that, we're done with our regular session.
Okay, cool. Is there anything else that we need to cover in regular session here?
Well, it sounds to me like we want to chit chat a little bit about some topics in executive though. Do you want to take a break first?
I don't know. We're going pretty quick. We could just roll into this. So I suggest we keep moving.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so Foster, you want to recommend a motion for us regarding the taxes?
Yes, and after a review and executive session, our 990 our tax reporting filing, there's a request from the staff from the board to approve our 990 tax filing and allow us to submit it to the IRS.
Okay, do I hear a motion for such?
So moved.
Yes, Jerry, and then is there a second?
Second.
Mark's got it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Hearing none, that passes.
Thank you very much, and that concludes our October meeting.
Okay, November, what can we look forward to? Anything? We start.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big one. You guys better bring a big pot of coffee with you. We
Is
got
that going to be a long, that includes Rock Island session also?
Yeah, we're gonna have a pretty long meeting, so we're gonna do our third quarter review and then tee up our budgets for 2026.
All right, very good.
See you then.
All right, thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks a
You
lot.
bet.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye bye.